Welcome back to the blog and welcome back to another great day here at Papua New Guinea. My name is Ryan. We're heading out to Sindini today. A couple of flights out there actually. For a commercial flight. So anyways, yeah, let's go ahead and get on our way out there. It's supposed to be good weather, but we will see. Rocket Tower, good morning, November Tango Echo. Request taxi Sindini 6 POV.
November Tango Echo, Crew Tower, monitor Ryan. Taxi to runway 17 left 20 and backtrack 10 line up. Wind light in visible, KNH 1020, temperature 19, time 15.
Morning, rolling 1020. Clear to backtrack line up 17 left, November Tango Echo. Alright, taxi light on. We'll throw our landing light on as well. Yeah, Sindini is just a 25-minute flight out there. They're saying it's blue sky on half of the valley and cloudy on the other half, so we'll see how that goes.
So one cleared from the main runway, and Papi instruction conducted all Papi.
As you can see, there's a lot more clouds out here this morning. We're starting to get into the transition period, which is kind of like, well, now until about January, to where it's kind of good some days and kind of crap other days, so it's kind of just a complete hit and miss on what we're going to get for the weather. I really like the dry season just because it's just nice blue skies all the time, but hey, the clouds do add a little bit of excitement sometimes too. But if we're not 50 knots by our taxiway that we pulled out of, we'll do full reverse heavy braking, flaps up, cut off, pull off, and shut off after takeoff. We're going to pitch for 85 knots. And consider EPL, consider feather. 80 full flaps if that's not working. Up, pull off, shut off, hit emergencies, crack my door, give tower a call. November Tango Echo ready for departure.
November Tango Echo 17 left, make left turn, clear for takeoff.
17 left turn, clear for takeoff, November Tango Echo. It's 20 degrees out, so 1390 for 1440. On our torque, ignition, condition flaps 20, fuel and harnesses. List is complete, 1390. Airspeed is alive. There's 50 and continuing. Just rotate.
Traffic, 10 o'clock, same altitude, 0 miles.
Really cloudy and smoky morning this morning here in the Goroka Valley today, that's for sure. With this lower lining air clouds, I'm at 5,500 right now, so yeah, 600, 700 feet above the airfield right here. So we'll just tuck underneath of these until we get out a little bit further on up, and then we'll go on. I think we can find some holes down here to the south. One way you can tell is if you look at the ground where it's all shaded, obviously there's clouds above it, and then where it's sunny, that's where there's big holes. So straight ahead off to the right a little bit, there's a huge hole, obviously. That's the easiest way to find out where there's holes coming up. Rocket Tower, November Tango Echo, departed time 19er. Tracking 151 on climb 9,000, estimating Sindini 45. There we go, now it's opening up.
November Tango Echo 9,000. Contact Mosby 120.7, second HF 6622 at 15 miles.
1207 or 6622, 15, November Tango Echo. There we go, look at that. It's beautiful out here. Just right over top of the field that we got 500 to 600 feet overcast, but nice and clear skies here. So on my climb out, I'm just keeping my ITT at 720 and my prop at 2,000 RPM. I wanted to ask why we don't fly back to 1900, which is actually the back of the stop for the propeller, which is really what I guess the Kodiak FM says to do, but our company SOP has it at 2,000 RPM. I think it's because it grabs us an extra knot, and I think over the years of flying, it was supposed to save a bunch of money by just doing it a tiny bit different. That's why we do that. All right, landing light off, engine inlet to normal, and our igniters are turned off. We'll just climb up to 9,000. I think that should work on the way out. If not, we'll go up to 11. Another question that I get quite often is if I can talk through my emergency procedures that I do right before takeoff. Because there's some items in there that I don't really talk about exactly what it is that I'm doing. So I thought I'd take this moment just to do that. Let's throw autopilot on real quick. So the first thing I do is I do like a pre-briefing for if I had to abort on takeoff. Let's say if there was birds on the runway or a dog, which there has been even at Goroka. So I talk about that first so that if it does come up that it's not like, oh crap, what am I supposed to do? So I say if I do have to abort, it's power off, just power to idle.
And November Tango Echo, pushboard traffic, Sierra, India Romeo, Kodiak was last taxiing Ayura some 5 minutes ago for Simbari. On departure, be on climb 10,000.
Copy, Sierra, India Romeo, thanks. Yeah, I do power idle, heavy braking, and flaps up if for some reason I was already a little bit tiny bit airborne. If I was just barely getting off the ground, I'd just probably do flaps up so I can get back on the ground as soon as possible. Just because I'd lose all that lift real quick, unless I was like 50 feet up, but then after that, it's a different story. And then if I was going off, I would cut off my fuel, my condition lever, which is the red one. I'd pull off my firewall fuel shutoff, and then my top ones is just my wing shutoffs. So, and then after takeoff, I'd pitch for 85 knots because I'd be at 20 degrees of flaps. So our best glide with 20 degrees of flaps is 85 knots. For 85, consider EPL, which is my emergency power lever. That's the fuel control unit, like fuel override. So if something went wrong with the fuel control unit, basically the metering, it meters the fuel for the engine. This should just be a full-on override, and you can over-torque the engine pretty easy with that because it's not metered. It's just unmetered. It's just like a big, yeah, a lot of fuel. So I'd consider EPL, consider feather. The reason why I say consider feather and not just go ahead and feather is because let's say I had just taken off and I still had room to land back on the runway, I wouldn't feather because I want to have the propeller pull forward to give me as much drag as possible so I can get back down on the ground as soon as possible. But let's say I was 500 feet up, I would consider feathering it because I'm gonna want to, like, yeah, glide a little bit longer. So yeah, consider PL, consider feather. 80 full flaps, so once I'm now going down, I would do 80 knots on pitching and full flaps. All right, we're up to speed, so let's go ahead and pull our torque back to 1250. Now I'd hit my emergency button, which is our V2 tracker. Our home base is able to track us on a computer, where we are, our altitude, our speed, things like that. And if I hit the emergency button, it sends out an alert not only to them, but also to, like back in the States, to our organization and whatnot, that I have an emergency. And I have my masters off close to the ground. After I've already shut down the engine and everything, or if it was dead, I just cut off all the fuel. Then I crack my door in case I had a hard landing, which I probably would. And more than likely the fuselage would get bent. So if I have the door open and like basically latched open, I'll supposed to open the door up even if the fuselage bends up a lot easier than if it was latched. And then you know, if there's a fire or something like that, I don't want to get stuck inside of the airplane. All right, we're 15 miles south. Moresby 120.7, November Tango Echo transfer.
November Tango Echo, this morning, go ahead.
Morning, November Tango Echo, 15 miles to the south, Goroka, maintainer 900,000, estimating Sendini 45, copy Sierra, India, Romeo.
November Tango Echo, airtrain is 1010, no additional report. Headset.
1010, no additional traffic. The weather out here is actually a lot nicer than I was thinking. There's a lot of low-lying clouds, but, you know, for the next 30-some miles, I'm not needing to go down in there at all. I'm hoping once I get into the Sendini, the Mariwaka Valley, that it will be open. They said when we gave them a call that there was a lot of cloud towards the side of the sun, so on the east side, and then on the west side they could see blue skies. So that's hopeful. There's no wind, which is another great thing because I have 2 flights out here, a body charter on my next flight out here. And typically the place I'm going, the winds pick up quite a bit. So I'll be ecstatic if I could get both of them done because it's Friday and I don't want to have to put this off until next week.
Sendini, call on 6622.
6622 Sendini, November Tango Echo. Alright, so the place we're going, elevation is going to be 5,500. The length is 540 meters with a 7% slope. I've taken you guys out here on a couple other flights before and actually flown out of here as well. The runway kind of has like a crest at the front at the beginning of it and then drops down and then kind of goes up into the 7% slope. So what I want to do is kind of land after the hump, right at the windsock. So it's probably 100 meters, not 100 meters, 75 meters or so into the runway. That way I can land kind of coming down the hill and it's going to be a lot smoother. Land on the crest. Basically what you'll do is you'll have a really hard landing and then it'll just bounce you back off another 2 or 3 feet and then you'll kind of have another stalled landing down into the low part. So I don't want to do that. If we do have to go around, we'll talk about it again when we get closer, but basically we power up 20 degrees of flaps and then I reset my torque to 740. So it's not like a piston aircraft where you can just give it, you know, full throttle. You'll just over torque and over temp the engine pretty quick. So you basically power up as you're just looking at the little white needle and bringing it up as close to the top of the green arc as you can. And then 20 degrees of flaps. You're pitching for 73 knots. And then you're
November Mike 1207. Check.
then you're re-looking at that little white thing and bringing it all the way to the very top, 740 on the ITC.
November Mike, renew 5 seconds.
Then basically what I'll do is I'll fly all the way to the end of the runway and then start making my right-hand turn out. Sierra India, Delta November Tango Echo is currently 20 miles for the Mariwaka Gap for Sendini. Got you on TCAS about another 5 miles ahead of me.
Yeah, Sandy Romeo, November Tango Echo, Sandy Romeo. Yeah, we're just about to fly overhead Samogu and go through the Narambi Gap for Sambari. We're at 10,000.
And 900,000. Morning, Jason.
Morning, Ryan.
All right, so that's the JARS aircraft, or the SIL Kodiak as well, and then they're just heading over just a few miles from where we're going to go. Anyways, so we'll be landing around 6,000 pounds, so our VREF, or approach speed, is going to be 67 knots. Some of you said, well, yeah, actually, VREF is actually the speed over, you know, the threshold speed or something, not your whole approach speed. But because we're flying with less margin than, let's say, an airliner is flying in on his approach, our VREF actually is our approach speed, so it is still our VREF because we fly the VREF all the way, turning final, all the way down across the numbers and touchdown. As we get any closer, I'm going to go ahead and just set up my pattern altitude as 6,300. I know it said 5,500, but the touchdown zone is at 5,300 here. The 6,300, I've already got my VREF set up We'll check our selectors, our fuel selectors, and our brakes. A few of you guys have wondered what these little things I keep flipping are. That's just my seatbelt lock. If you pull on it really quick, it does lock, but this is like a for sure lock. So for takeoff and landing, we have that. We're gonna go ahead and turn off our autopilot and then turn off TAWS, which is Betty. This is our terrain awareness system. We'll be heading over the Mariawaka Gap here shortly. I'll be close to terrain, and I don't need her yelling at me saying that there's close terrain. So our VREF is set up, our lights and our inlet. We're just 3 minutes out from there, Mariawaka Gap, so I'm going to go ahead and throw my engine inlet into bypass, throw our landing light on, and I just fly around with my taxi light on pulse, just because it's an LED, and it just does make me a little more visible, and it doesn't, LEDs don't really wear out like the HID landing lights. Lights and inlet are finished. Our abort, like I said, it's going to be, we're fairly light, so like kind of late final. Power up 20 degrees of flaps, pitch for 73, reset torque to 740, and then a right-hand turnout. Hop and harness we'll do here shortly, flaps, and our search and rescue we'll do once we get there. All right, there's definitely a lot of low-lining clouds right here, kind of in the gap area. I'm hoping that it breaks up over top. They said it did. Well, they said there's a lot of clouds kind of down on this end, so...
Station Far East here, Indy Romeo is 2 miles north. We'll be overflying the field, currently 6,500 on descent, and joining the circuit, all stations Sabari.
Right, I'm actually seeing over top into the other ridge, which is a really good thing now. We're just at 9,100 feet. The lowest you can get through this gap here is, I think around comfortably 8,600 feet. That gives you a little bit of room underneath the view. I think 84 if you were scraping trees, but once we get over top of this, we'll start our descent right on down. I'm just gonna go ahead and push the prop forward now. Already got our bypass, our engine inlet into bypass. All station Mariawaka Gap, Kodiak November Tango, Echo through the Mariawaka Gap, 900,000. Estimating Sendini's circuit, time 42. All right, gonna reduce my torque on down. Around 400 to 450. Then I'm going to get a little bit of that right rudder trim out of there because I'm not having as much power, I don't have as many P factors, so now I can start taking some of that out. Oh, excellent, the valley's wide open, so. All right, below 138, we'll do 10 degrees of flaps. And we'll set up our OBS to runway 280. Puts a nice little line on my screen so I can see where it is. Not that critical here, but out in the sea peak where it's kind of just jungle, it's really, really helpful because you can't see the runway. Sometimes, I mean, you could be a mile away from it, you don't even see it. But Moresby know that we are in the circuit. Moresby 6622, November Tango Echo in the circuit. Sendini, report after landing.
November Tango Echo.
All stations Sendini, November Tango Echo is in the circuit, Sendini. Okay, 20 degrees of flaps. Top and harness is done. The harness is our seatbelt harness. The reason I went 20 degrees of flaps now is just because I'm going to have to lose another really 2,000 feet before I get to my pattern altitude. Now it's only about 1,200, but yeah, it's actually really open here. This is really good. They said there's no wind. There's very, very low wind right now, so there's a possibility that I might be able to get both of my flights in today, which would be excellent. Just because, yeah, there is a funeral out here. I'm flying a body out here on my next flight, so it would be nice to be able to get both flights done, just so that it's not drug out all over the weekend, you know? All right, 67 on final, 77 on base, and 87 on downwind. All right, let's take a look at the wind suck. If I can, it looks like 0 wind, which is awesome. Oh, like I said, I'm going to try to touch down just kind of just past the windsock, right in the nice downhill part of the runway. I've only got 3 knots up here, which is really good. There's 200 feet more to go for my pattern altitude of 6,300. We're slowing to 87 knots. So once I get about a mile out, perpendicular from my runway is when I'm going to turn my downwind. So I'm just watching the distance on my GPS. Once it hits 0.9, I start my turn. There we go. Already at the end of the runway, so I'm just going to leave my torque right at 470, 450. I'm 300 feet on my downwind, so turn base at 6,000, turn final 5,800. There's 6,000, so I've already dropped it a little bit quicker than I thought. I'm just going to hold my 6,000, my 87 knots. A pitch for airspeed, power for altitude. There's a runway right across. I'm going to go all the way to the end of it before I turn my base. Then turn final right at the end of the runway as well. There's base. On to 77. Drop down to 5,800.
500.
Right, full flaps, checklist is complete. On to 67. Right, 2 knots of wind off my right. 550 feet on the descent. .67 knots.
$500.
Really nice and stable out today. Okay, coming up uncommitted.
$500.
All right, we're committed. Slow down before all these big bumps. Oh, hey, they did a bunch of work to it. Nice. They asked them to do like months ago to get that fixed, and they got it fixed finally. Awesome. Anyways, this is a really fun place to come into, you guys. If you guys did enjoy that, hey, give this video a thumbs up, and if you really liked it, hit the applause button down there. I just found out about it. Anyways, thanks for coming along on this flight, you guys. Be sure to subscribe if you guys do like this content. I put out videos Wednesdays and Saturdays, so be sure to come back and check out some of my other videos. But Mooresby here in a second. Cancel my SAR. Mooresby 6622 November Tango Echo on the ground. Sendini, cancel SAR.
November Tango Echo, Sendini, SAR terminated.
November Tango Echo. Alright, shut down. We'll go 20 degrees of flaps for takeoff here in a minute. Shut off our blowers, all of our lights, all of our other switches, and our V2. And cut off. And feather. Thanks guys, have a good one.